So we're going to get started. Appreciate all of you coming to the second annual Stone Living Lab Educators Workshop, Boston Harbor Educators Workshop. We had a workshop last February where some of you participated and wanted to sort of show that we also last February did a social network analysis of many of you participated in this. I think it was 34 individuals answered a survey about the connections between and among us. And this is an example from NEOSEC, the New England Ocean Science Education Collaborative, over 6 years when we did an SNA once and twice. And what happened was that we had a number of organizations that knew each other quite well. But then after 6 years of working together, it was a very, very tight, cohesive network that everyone knew everyone and could work freely, trusting the relationships to work forward. And NEOSEC continues to this day to be a very impactful network across New England of ocean educators. So last February, we did this Boston Harbor Educators Network analysis and found that, again, sort of as the pre-NEOSEC one, there is a distribution of connections between the organizations doing any Boston Harbor education activities, some that are central and well connected, and others that are connected more peripherally or potentially smaller or with different nodes. But there is a large diversity of the types of organization and the knowledge and the types of activities that we have, and we're pretty well connected to a large diversity of individuals, of organizations, of people. And we want to use this Stone Living Lab workshop and all of the activities that might come out of it to sort of thicken the network, make more effective our collective impact from all of our work, so that we're not isolated from ourselves, but talking to each other, sharing sort of effective practices, and then also multiple pathways for our students and participants in the area. So the goals of these workshops that we are going to have sort of every year, to share our knowledge and our programs and things that we're up to. And so that's a lot of the morning sharing. We find that the remote virtual option is more inclusive for folks that can't get and take off a full day to share some of the knowledge in this sort of sharing mode, but also the discussion. So most of the time is not the 3-minute lightning just to get you sort of enticed, but sharing across the breakouts in discussion. And you're free to go to a breakout and then leave the breakout and go to another breakout. So you can skip around to see all of the speakers or whatever speakers that you want to see during the sort of the hour of each of the sessions. We want to, as sort of shown in the social network analysis, strengthen connections across and among the existing programs. And in the afternoon session, in the in-person session at the Boston Winery, to innovate new connections and new programs and new activities that, again, try to optimize our collective impact as a set of educators. We're always under-resourced in education and ocean education, and the more that we can share and connect and make effective our collaborations, the better off we will all be. So the agenda looks like this. We have 3 sets of 5 lightning talks in the morning from basically 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. The first one's mostly focused on research and education and the combination there. The second one has a couple of talks and a focus on art and science generally. And the third one is really about community-based educational programming. And then in the afternoon, we have 2 hours for lunch on your own and commuting. If you can make it, it would be great. It's a really nice event space. We're going to have 3 sessions, one increasing diversity of your programs, sharing sort of effective practices there and some knowledge and expertise and experience. Trying to work together to map some of our educational programs across Boston Harbor and see how we might find connections among us. And then once we find those connections, developing new collaborations with some logic model and action planning and whatnot, with a wine tasting event, a social event at the end at 5 o'clock that everyone is welcome to. So any questions on the day? So we're going to start with our first lightning talk. The lightning talks are 3 minutes. And then after all 5 lightning talks go, you can type questions in the chat, but we're going to go through the 3-minute lightning talks. And then we're going to set up the breakouts with their names. And so the sort of 9:30 to 9:50, 9:52, you can go into those breakouts. You get a little warning when you're come out. And again, you can skip around to all 5 speakers or any of the 5 speakers, whatever you want to do. And it's sort of introduce yourselves and sort of it's a free for all. It's like a poster session virtually. Go talk to who you want to talk to. And then we'll come up and wrap up for the 10 o'clock hour session 1, and we'll do it again for session 2. So any questions at all? Sierra, you can take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Bob. I will take it away. A thumbs up if you see my slide. Thank you. All right. So I'm Sara Muñoz from Northeastern's Marine Science Center, and today I'm just going to highlight some tools used to communicate research at the center to teachers and students. So we love bringing students and teachers to our labs and tide pools in person, but to expand our reach, we've built an online resource center. Today I'm sharing one of those resources. These are ecology and genomics modules that we prepared in partnership with Dr. Katie Lauderhouse. This project was actually born out of pandemic-induced necessity. In spring of 2020, we shifted from this planned in-person workshop to building instead these downloadable classroom modules in a set. And I will share links to all of these in the chat. They are public and free, but I'm actually going to explore them today through a short list of the lessons that we learned while building these lessons through the lessons. So first, connecting to next generation and state science standards in the building was a really useful tool, but primarily on the content build side. So identifying the specific standards helped to narrow the focus and find the best learning level. However, we found it's not an absolute. About half the educators that we've surveyed utilize these lessons sort of independent of the suggested unit or grade, just simply as extensions or bonus activities. However they want to use them is really fine. So second, it was extremely useful to incorporate compensated teacher feedback during the development of these. We build stipends into grant programs and partner with teachers to test our lessons. Always looking for new teacher partners, by the way. And this really yielded some critical feedback and also some really creative use ideas to identify activities that, maybe were really awesome or activities that worked better as in-person workshops, but just didn't translate easily for teachers into the classroom. And then third, teachers reported that including the features about our grad students and research interns in these were actually kind of the most useful part in drawing connections and engagement from students that use them. And then as a bonus, these little bios and videos are really engaging projects for the graduate students and research interns in our labs to be able to build out as they kind of get mentorship from the outreach program alongside their host lab while they're doing that work. And so finally, I can't leave you this morning without giving a short shout out to the networks that I gained the most from through collaborations and troubleshooting. I'm really looking forward to brainstorming with all of you in a little while in the breakouts. And I'm really happy to speak to any more of the educator networks I have listed here. I gained so much from them, and I'm glad to be with you all here today. 3 minutes.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Sierra. And our next, if we can stop sharing, the next speaker is Kayla.
Thank you, Bob. The screen share up. Okay, can everyone see my screen all right? And can everyone hear me?
Perfect.
Great. So my name is Kayla Bradley, and I'm an undergraduate student at Umass Boston studying environmental science. And I'm also a research assistant in Dr. Bob Chen's lab. And today I wanted to talk to everyone about a summer internship I did at Cal State LA and give a perspective of the importance of summer internships for early undergraduate students, especially from the perspective of a student who went through it themselves. So the internship I did was an NSF REU. These are research experiences for undergraduates that the National Science Foundation funds to send students across the country to different schools to study various issues in science. So my program was responsive hydrological systems in urban areas due to human disturbance and climate change. And again, I studied at Cal State LA. It was a 10-week program running from June to August 2022. They provided a stipend for work relative to 40 hours a week of pay, as well as housing on Cal State LA's campus and travel assistance with the cost of planes and everything else. And the overall purpose of this REU and REUs in general is to provide research opportunities to undergraduate students, particularly those without access to opportunities and those from underrepresented backgrounds. So these programs really are meant to give students who otherwise may not have these opportunities to get in the field and get hands-on experience that can then translate into resume experience or even into a future career interest. So my project was assessing vulnerability and effect on urban heat islands for Los Angeles basin cities. The urban heat island effect is the overall effect that metropolitan areas have a higher temperature than their surrounding rural areas. And in Los Angeles, this is a particularly interesting effect because Los Angeles is actually considered an urban heat archipelago, meaning that there are a bunch of different heat islands throughout the county that contribute to a lot of different heat problems for the cities. And this creates different levels of severity throughout the county. So my analysis ranked the vulnerability of different heat stress for different cities, as well as the severity of the problem to determine which cities were the most vulnerable and experiencing the worst effects. This gave me a lot of technical skills, such as GIS, data analysis. I also presented this at the annual Watershed Symposium and got some fieldwork techniques with taking water samples. We also did multiple workshops on abstract writing, remote sensing, and even diversity, equity, and conclusion to make sure that that was highlighted. And of course, I got networking experience with the professors as well as future other students. The greater impact, though, was overall expanding my perspective. I had actually never left the Eastern Standard Time Zone before this experience. So to get that experience was really great. And overall, I got to meet a lot of people with different experiences. And I think it's more important for students to expand their perspective while they're young in their career. So thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the NSF and as well as Cal State LA for the experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla. Our next speaker is Sean McCanty.
All right. Second. Can we see it? Good. All right. So yeah, thanks for having me. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the work that our organization does. So I work for the Neponset River Watershed Association. It's a big mouthful. We call it NEPRA to save some time. And I would say we're a research and education associated organization. So it's not our primary focus. Our primary focus is on water quality improvements, expanding green space access, and improving the lives of the residents of the Neponset River Watershed. Do this through a number of different activities, education, research, outreach, lobbying, all sorts of different activities related to that. And just kind of orient people. This is the Neponset River and its watershed. Up there, right at the top corner is Umass Boston. So it basically goes from Foxborough Stadium down in, Gillette Stadium down in Foxborough, all the way up to the Rainbow Swash gas tanks off the highway. I'm sure everyone's seen. And basically, we do projects throughout this watershed on a number of different avenues. And the reason I say education and research associated is because while we do conduct our own research and we do conduct education programs, we also have a lot of opportunities that are not research that we do, but have the capacity to accept research. And so I know Susan Bryant from CSCR is on the call. We're working with the students this summer on meaningful watershed educational experiences. trying to get them involved in water quality work that has real life impacts, so they can write to their town board of health and talk about beach closures and that sort of thing. So I know the lighting talks, I just want to run through kind of a hit list of the things we're looking at. So we've got water quality data, both discrete and continuous. We collect that through volunteer effort, as well as some staff work and some student work. We undertake a lot of projects to restore waterways, so including dam removals. So this is a great opportunity of things we don't actually look at, what impacts of water quality removal of the dam. But speaking as someone who did his PhD in that kind of work, it's a great avenue for research. And we're looking to expand for more work in the estuary. We got 2 projects going on to look at assessing the current state of the marsh health, and also engage with the residents as well as the municipalities on climate priorities. So I think I'm about out of time, but just kind of hit list of things we can do. We have a lot of ongoing projects, like I said, but really one of the things that NEPR is so great about, or great with, is that we have a large number of very motivated volunteers that can leverage that work and work alongside schools and motivated students as well.
Thank you, Sean. Excellent. I think I'm next. So the Stone Living Lab is bringing you this workshop, but also I just wanted to open up the conversation a little bit about what we do a little bit, and we can talk more in the breakouts. But one of the pieces about nature-based solutions is that there's a short and long-term assessment of the impacts, and many of the engineering and science impacts are simply about whether the wall or the salt marsh grass or the cobble berm stays in place. And most, I think, of the impact is really about the co-benefits of the installation, which has a lot to do with engagement and education and community acceptance of that. So that is often underrepresented in sort of a lot of the assessments. And so a lot of times we tell stories about this, and sea level is rising and engineering solutions are effective at protecting infrastructure against specific threats, but a broad range of societal benefits over time are not being evaluated. Therefore, adaptive, multi-scalar, and community-based assessments are needed to ensure sustainable coastlines. And this is just a model of a storytelling ABT, right? An and, but, therefore, that you can use. So here's an example of a sort of a nature-based solution at the MBTA bus garage in Charlestown, what it looked like before and what it can be looked like and used afterwards. And if you do this in a reasonable way within the limitations of the space that you have. This is a unique partnership. The Stone Living Lab is a university, nonprofit, state, federal, city, and many communities involved in this partnership. So it is like the nature-based solutions, adaptive and multi-scalar. There are opportunities for research and education within the Boston Harbor and Boston area and the Boston Harbor Islands National and State Park. And there's a lot of experiments and opportunities, community science, to be engaged in a number of these activities in areas that the research is being conducted and in areas that are expanding and broadened by community science to anywhere that is in the neighborhood, basically, of any of the participants. You know, where are we in year one? You can start saying we're in some of the islands. We're also on the mainland coasts, and we're wherever people are that want to be engaged in Boston Harbor. And we connect you through a number of programs, but including a teacher institute and community science activities around the harbor. Some of these assessments talk about the social network analysis, but you can think about geophysical and physical, biological assessments, but you can also think about what's the policy changes that happen as a result of the work, and what is the capacity building, workforce development, and engagement through the education programs that we have, including things like coastal resilience literacy, where we've defined 3 of these large concepts that we hope that you like and can share. Coasts are adaptable, constantly changing systems at the interface of land and sea. Natural and social communities are interconnected in coastal areas and beyond. We have the ability and responsibility to determine our future relationship with the coasts, and we hope to be hanging these flags in front of the Boston Harbor Winery so you can find the event this afternoon. This community science sort of, we had in year one had a number of 74 site visits by 34 community scientists and across the year. So much broader research impacts than we could do with the research team. So we're using many voices and perspectives to develop a number of co-benefits, and would love to partner with all of you in optimizing sort of and sharing some of the best practices and partnering in our work. So I'll end there because I didn't time myself and turn the thing over to Sara.
Can everybody see my screen? Good. Okay. Hi, I'm Sara Bistany. I'm a PhD student at the School for the Environment, working with Dr. Chen. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about a course I teach called The Urban Ocean. It's a freshman seminar that runs out of the School for the Environment at Umass. So I'm going to talk a little bit about course objectives, assignments, field trips, and then end on some of the feedback we've gotten from this course. So it's a place-based course, and the goal is to immerse students in the history, culture, and science of Boston Harbor and its islands. Students investigate the evolving relationship between people, plants, and animals across the aquatic landscape. During this class, they learn how to conduct archival research and scientific experiments, and I'll address this a little bit more when I talk about assignments. They participate in service learning opportunities and citizen science projects. So for example, at the end of the semester, we participate in the City Nature Challenge. So that's one of the things that we get outside to go do. And we also engage in discussions with local Indigenous leaders, researchers, and stakeholders. So for example, we have some researchers from UMass Boston coming this semester, somebody that looks at whales in the harbor, somebody looking at microplastics. We have a local fisherwoman and bait shop owner coming to talk to us to give us a little bit of a stakeholder perspective. So the assignment. So we start the class with the Harbor Islands paper and presentation. And for this assignment, they look at any historical, cultural, or ecological event that happened on any of the Boston Harbor Islands. So we've had students talk about military history on George's Island, all the way to nesting birds over on another island. So quite a variety. They do a literature review and discussion. And the goal of this is to familiarize the students with reading scientific literature. And last semester, for example, they looked at a topic like storm surges in Revere, so local coastal issues that a lot of the students are local that they might be experiencing themselves. They learn how to make a scientific poster, so using the data from the Ocean Conservancy's Trash Free Seas program, they learn how to do a basic statistical analysis and create these scientific posters, and most of them are science majors, so this is something they'll be going on to do later in their career. And then we end on a Stone Living Lab research proposal, so they learn a little bit about the Stone Living Lab. And then based on everything they've learned over the course of the semester, they create and design their own project, their own proposal. So something that they would want to research if they worked for the Stone Living Lab. And they seem to have a really good time with that. We've gotten a lot of really good papers that I'm happy to talk about in the breakout. And so a big part of this class is I try and make it as hands-on as possible. So we try and go outside. So we go down to Savin Hill Cove and do some urban intertidal biology. Lucy Lockwood joined us last semester. Little rock tunnel we found, lots of really great things. The students were really excited to get their hands dirty and get outside. The big field trip is we go to the Harbor Islands at the end of the semester. Last semester, we went to Peddix Island. I think this semester we'll be going to Lovell's Island, but we had a really nice time. We got some water samples, did water quality testing on the boat ride back. We set out a crab trap. We got a green crab with some eggs on it this time. That was really exciting. We brought out quad rats, Secchi discs, this picture in the corner here, they're all looking over the side of the boat. And so this field trip was really great to put everything we talked about over the course of the semester in perspective for the students to really see, because they've been researching the harbor and the islands, so to actually physically put them there, I think was really important. And so I just want to close on some of the feedback we've gotten from this class. So a lot of them talked about how much they enjoyed going outside. So this student wrote, they did lots of hands-on activities such as presentations, harbor walks, and field trips to the Boston Harbor Islands. Another student wrote that it's worth one's time to be more educated in what's happening to the environment and society. And overall course evaluations were really positive. Over 80% of students said that the course was either above average or exceeded expectations. And so that was really great as well. I think I probably went a little bit over time, so I'll close with that. But thank you. And I want to say a special thank you to Dr. Chen and UMass Boston for giving me the opportunity to teach this class. It's been a really wonderful experience. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And thank you to all the speakers, Sierra, Kayla, Sean, Sara, for staying on time and some really engaging, interesting ways of thinking about that research and education are not separate in any way. They're really folding into each other, integrated and necessary for maximizing and optimizing each of those efforts. So Aimee, if you could send us into the breakouts, please enjoy your time in the breakouts, learning more, speaking to the speakers, and you're free to go to any breakout and leave any breakout and go to another one at any time. We'll come back at 9:54. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the main room here. At least if you're like me, it was a little bit too short in the breakout. So we had some really engaging conversations and we're beginning to get to meet each other, know each other. But we have 2 more of these virtual sessions so we can continue to get to know and meet each other. I just wanted to spend a few minutes sort of wrapping up this idea that there are so many opportunities there's so much going on in Boston Harbor and the environment and in the environs, Boston up into the watersheds. And it's hard to keep track of everything that's going on. And so we're using this time to learn a few of the things that we're all up to and make some contacts. And if it's okay with all of you, we'd like to share all of your contact information with everyone who's registered. Please contact Aimee if you're not okay with sharing your contact information. But it's a set of formal and informal networks, right, that we're trying to optimize, maximize, collaborate across. We have to get to know each other and see if we have like minds, and we have to know what programs that might connect across some of the areas, both location and goals and audiences. Met Bill Gallagher's got all kinds of technology that can see under the water, and would love to work with him on some of that, and have been talking to the trustees, but other people, and today met Teresa for the first time. So these are sort of the connections that we're trying to do. This particular session on research and education, there's a lot of active research going on by some of the people in the little boxes here, and many of the people that we know, and so it's really an exciting time. But I'd like to open it to comments, reflections, questions from anyone here. We have about 6 minutes before we end this session and move on to the next session. So either in the chat or just shout out or raise your hand, anything here.
I was just wondering from our group whether we already have amongst all of us a place to share possible guest lecturers.
That you have lectures that are open to events that you'd like everyone to know about, is that, or a recording?
No. If you've if you've hosted somebody that did a great job as a guest lecturer, like Sara Bistany was just talking about having some great people for her classes, and I was like, I'm going to steal your people and have them come down to CSDR. So then Linda McIntosh offered the Mass Marine Educators website or newsletter as a place where maybe we could just say, so-and-so did a great job speaking to my students, and here's their contact information. So they, these guest lecturers would come with a little bit of a testimonial from those of us who have recognized that they are good with an audience.
So I sometimes call this a human library. You get human resources and you can check them out. And I would definitely want to make sure that the person is okay with you with advertising that they're available to speak across everyone. But Rebecca, are you on? I feel like that would be a wonderful resource to stick on the Stone Living Lab website under educational resources. And so if you have folks that you've had, I would say, Rebecca, are you there?
I'm here.
Is that something that you think we can do on the website?
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely, as Bob was saying, we want to make sure folks are okay with us sharing, their contact info on our website, but perhaps it could be, I'm trying to think about a great way for us to share that. And yeah, shoot me an email if you have some folks that you've talked to and you think we could start to build that out. And we'll figure out a good way to do that. I'll send my email in the chat right now.
We could put possible speakers or possible guest lecturers or something, and then name and a few words of the general topic, and then contact information, and then folks across this network and anywhere else that could go there and say, hey, I want to learn about salt marsh grass, Sarah, or I want to learn about something, and then contact and see how that goes. I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Susan.
It would be great also if you could add appropriateness for grade level for teachers who are secondary school teachers or below.
That would be great. I think maybe we ask the speaker what they're comfortable with advertising. Yeah. We can't assess whether they're good or not for fifth grade. I mean, but we can ask the speaker. I know we can, but we don't have the capacity to. Anyway, other comments, questions, suggestions like that? That's awesome.
Yes, Adam mentioned there art and science, and I've been trying to propel that ball into arts and science within Milton. They have the art center there. I sent off several years ago Noah's Art Center, and they sent it up to the, I believe it was the middle school, elementary school. So Adam, that would be a way if you want to contact people. There is somewhat of a small, fragile network, I would call it, but maybe they'll get interested in it. And from there, their interest would turn out to be, hey, I love science, and they'll take science courses. So that's the idea.
Awesome. I'm actually in Milton also, Bill, and would happy to be happy to connect with whoever you've got for contacts. Do a lot of art and science, and our next session 2, starting at 10:05, is going to be multiple things, including a conversation on art and science. Some of the activities of this group, but it goes well beyond what we're going to see today.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? We talked a bit about community science at the Watershed Associations, at the Stone Living Lab, and others. It's a great way to get people active in the environment, making observations, not just what we or they are supposed to do, but when you're out in the watershed, on the river, in the estuary, on the beach, you notice things that you might not often notice. And hopefully there's a way of sharing some of those things, particularly the odd things. I grew up in LA and did my graduate work in San Diego. And when you have, giant squid washing up on the beach, you make an observation that, oh, it's an El Nino year, without knowing anything about an El Nino year. And when you go to the Granite Ave Bridge and notice that the water is frozen above the bridge and not frozen below the bridge, what? Oh, there's a salinity freezing point depression for the saltier water, and bridges separate the salt. So even observing that without knowing gets you engaged in learning more and potentially being engaged some more. So thank you so much for this research and education session 1. I would recommend leaving your Zoom on, but turning off your camera and your microphone. We'll come back at 10:05 and have 5 more wonderful talks. So see you soon. Our second session today is, I think most of you are still here. I don't know if there's a few new joiners here. Second annual Stone Living Lab Educators Workshop. We have designed this to be as inclusive as we can. So it's this hybrid mode of being virtual in the morning and sharing across some information, some short lightning talks, as well as interactions in the breakout rooms, with an afternoon more in-depth in-person session where we're going to work on both sharing and finding connections and potentially new programs. I normally take this break to say, the bathrooms are down to the left down the hall, but since it's virtual, we don't sort of have to do that. Captions, if you go to the little 3 dots at the bottom, you can turn on captions. We're trying to be inclusive as possible for everyone. And we have technology that allows us to do this in a common way in a lot of different formats here. I do want to call out, I saw Joe Christo has joined us from the Stone Living Lab, Managing Director. Hi, Joe, thanks for coming. That any resources at all that you want to share with this group or any of the folks through the Stone Living Lab website, a link, a hands-on activity, a recorded talk, a poster from some space, send them to Rebecca Shore, and she can post them, unless they're ginormous like my video, on the website, and we'll get those. And that's a great way of things are happening really fast today, and so it's a great way of capturing that and reconnecting, and as well as having a contact list of everyone, so we can continue the conversations after today. So our order here is going to be Jack, Kristen, Kim, Eric, and Aimee, and we have 3-minute lightning talks, followed by breakout groups where you can go to any of their breakout rooms to discuss further. So we'll start off with Jack Buckley.
Thanks, Bob. And thank you, Aimee. I put together some examples of the way in which we use GIS. I'm not too sure how many people in the audience are actively using Esri's platform or some other GIS platform. Aimee, can I share my screen? Is that enabled?
Yes, I think I have enabled you to share your screen.
Okay. I will. Let me just click share screen for a second. Sorry about that. Let me come back. What the heck are we looking at? Sorry about. I'm losing some valuable seconds. I know the clock is ticking. Okay.
Lightning is striking.
Yes, I will dump this into the chat. So a couple of different ways in which we use GIS that I think is really artistic as well. I love looking at maps. I don't know about you. This is credit to Susan Bryant, who's on the Zoom, CSCR colleague, who uses Camway pingers to record lots of information with students out in the Cohasset estuary. This is done with Camway pingers, giving you the GPS and or survey 1, 2, 3. Beautiful type of work. With an 8th grader, we went around, took a bunch of pictures. As you can see here, these are all high tides, what we might call king tides, local flooding. And it's an awesome way to document what's going on in the local community. Taking a picture, using survey 1, 2, 3, creating an attachment viewer, and then pushing that out to the public gives people an opportunity to look at a creative way. And this was made with Susan and me with an 8th grader from the Inley School. These great pictures, unfortunately, of flooding, but they are beautiful pictures nonetheless. Another one using survey 1, 2, 3, students going out and mapping dune grass % coverage. Same utility, but again, beautiful picture because, sorry about that, when you look at this area, you can really see that this barrier beach is protecting close to 200 acres of salt marsh back here. Teacher training, where does my trash go? This is a story map that I put together that was really designed to give people access to the concept of environmental justice. And what this story map does is walk people through building a map about landfills, building a map about the waste to energy incineration plants, and then doing some census block analysis of the environmental justice communities in their relationship with the only 7 trash burning plants in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So that's GIS, storytelling, some great maps, and public service. This was created to push out publicly. It's about the dispossession of Native Americans using Esri's swipe tool. So putting together a couple of layers and putting in some information, giving people an opportunity to look at colonial America, 1700s, and dispossession of Native American lands over time. And public forums. This is the Cohasset website that has some public forum information about watershed, community resilience, flooding. This shows some of the same imagery embedded in a map form and looking at watersheds, doing a little bit of 3D stuff here, which again is pretty artistic. So I can dump that in there. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. That's phenomenal, with the visualization combined with technology, data, photos, and students. Really, really awesome. And we'll be talking to you in many different directions. Our next speaker is Kristen Berry.
All right, I'm trying to share the screen. I haven't done this in a while. All right. Let's see. Is it working?
We got it. Yeah, great.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so I was just going to do a brief overview of our programs and just dive a little bit deeper into the science and art. So in our youth programs, we have our all-access Boston Harbor cruises. Those are day trips to Spectacle and George's Island. About 300 participants per day, so we go 3 days a week in the summer. And those programs, we do a lot of hands-on, like fishing, touch tanks, island exploration, dropping the crab traps and seeing what comes up, and not only looking at the crabs, but also like, the seaweed and other things that come up that may not be as exciting to kids, but, getting them excited about what's actually under the water in the Boston Harbor off of those islands. Let's see, got some pictures of that. Our model for these programs is that we have 40 youth staffers who are sort of administering these programs to community groups that join us on our trips each week. And so those youth staffers are kids who I think 90% of them go to Boston Public Schools, live in Boston, and then we have a few just outside of Boston as well. We also do our Boston Harbor Explorers program, where our teens go to partner sites and do very similar things that I was talking about on our all access Boston Harbor trips. But again, these are a little bit more engaging, just because we see the same kids week after week or day after day at these sites. And so we are kind of utilizing the camps that we partner with to really make sure that we're kind of like building curriculum, and whereas the all access trips are kind of like a 1 day here's everything that we want to share, and it's sort of like a choose your own adventure kind of, each group will either come to our sort of set up on the pier, or they'll do a walk with the National Park Rangers and DCR. And so it's sort of, that is a little bit different. That's how those sort of programs differ. We have programs at Atlantic Wharf and Langone Park. So we're trying to incorporate more sites that are closer to home for a lot of these community groups, and really just create an experience that is, where kids can touch the water and see what lives in the Boston Harbor. Here are just some photos of the youth staff. And then we do the catch of the day, smaller fishing trips. So learning how to fish, talking about sustainable fishing practices, pulling up some lobster traps. And just a day on the water is great for these smaller groups to really get more engaging programming going on. And then we especially kind of kicked this off in 2020, and our partnership, with the MIT Sea Grant, National Parks of Boston, and then Stone Living Lab, we were able to participate in community science curriculum and data collection. We have the bivalve quest with the Sea Grant, mimic with the national parks, and then we were able to do some coastal resiliency and talking about nature-based solutions, and a little bit about what we heard about in the first sort of section of chats. And this is really great because we are able to really engage our youth staff in these particular areas of research and just data collection, and really are able to make sure that we're not just having our youth staff learn the Save the Harbor curriculum and share that with youth, but also be a part of these larger projects that are going on around the Boston Harbor. And then Virtual Boston Harbor in 2020 and 2021, we were able to really dive deeper into climate change and the effects of climate change and environmental justice in the waterfront communities in Boston. We have our sort of art projects that we've always done, our changing course. We had an artist in residence doing water bottle collection, and then we would have paint them like fish in community events, and then they were actually displayed in a few spaces, including the Christopher Columbus Park. We had the mayor's mural crew at our beach bashes this year. And then we also do a music program, Beats on the Beach, where there's local producers doing sound collection from just natural sounds that are on the Boston Harbor Islands. And then there's a competition and then a block party to really just kind of celebrate the process, and also just have community members come down to the beach. And this year we did it on Malibu Beach. And then I think that's probably it for my slides, but
that's awesome, Kristen. Thank you so much. That your images of everyone engaged, smiling, happy, hands-on are just why we all do it. And so thanks for those, and just such a wide variety of activity, thinking about access on the islands through boats at the shoreline, and then also how does that filter into communities and where people are. So thank you so much. Our next talk is Kim Starbuck, Cool Science.
All right, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Okay. Great. So, hi everyone, I'm Kim Starbuck. I work with the Urban Harbors Institute at UMass Boston. And one of the projects that I have been working on along with Bob here is a project called Cool Science, which is basically an effort to blend art and science to educate adults. And we have a number of partners in this project. Mass Art is one of our partners, also Kansas City Art Institute, UMass Boston, Kansas University, and then UMass Lowell. All right, so what is Cool Science? So it is a project that was funded a few years ago by the National Science Foundation. And specifically, it engages students, teachers, parents, and the public from Massachusetts, Kansas, and Missouri, and talking all about the science of extreme weather. So the way that we do this is basically through two different efforts. One being a K-12 art competition that encourages learning about climate science and extreme weather. So that art competition, it's been funded by the National Science Foundation for a few years. And then prior to that, it was already in existence for about 7 years or so. And then another effort that we're working on right now is we're doing some local community projects, which I'll talk about in a minute. And that's another way to kind of encourage kids to really communicate to adults different things that they've learned about extreme science. One thing that we have noted in literature and just through experience is that when kids communicate to adults, it seems to be very effective. It seems to be a great teaching mechanism for adults to then learn. So we have mentors. Some adults go into classrooms and then teach kids about extreme science and climate science, and then have them develop art. And that artwork will end up going on buses and communicate what they've learned to adults. So this is for specifically the art competition. What we do each year is we have a set of challenge questions that we ask the students. And here you can see some from a few years ago. And we end up teaching teachers or mentors how to teach students about these different topics, and then have the students develop artwork. And the winning artwork is then displayed on buses, like you can see in this picture here. And then with the intent that then they would like to teach adults what they've learned. So specifically here, it's how a severe storm forms. There's a picture there with the hope that then they're going to teach adults that are riding on the buses or maybe see it go by about how a severe storm forms. And they can learn more then on our website. And we do also have some surveys that we do for the riders of the buses to see how effective this is in teaching adults. We also have a celebration at the end of each contest year where the winners come, and we share artwork with parents, with the public, and the students can then share their artwork and hopefully do some education at the same time. And here are a couple other pieces of the winning artwork from, I believe this was actually from last year. And these are shown on buses in Lowell, the Merrimack Valley, and then out in Kansas. And then another thing that we are just starting up with is doing some local community projects. Basically, we wanted to make sure we were getting into some of the local communities where there is some more diversity, and sharing some more about extreme science, and having students come in and again teach adults about what they've learned. So some examples are, here you can see some tiles. We are working on a tile mural that's about sea level rise and coastal resiliency in East Boston. And also with Adam, that I believe is on the call from Mass Audubon, we are working on developing some birdhouses that are resistant to extreme weather, and those will be displayed at an urban nature center. So that's a little bit about cool science. I'll put my email in the chat if anyone has questions, or you can join my breakout.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. And it's coolscience.net. Our next speaker from the bow seat, Eric Carstens.
Yes, hello. Let me just get all set up here. All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Eric Carstens, and I'm the program manager at Bow Seat Ocean Awareness Programs. We are a Boston-based but international organization that invites young people from around the world to learn about and speak up on critical environmental issues through art. Our flagship program is the Ocean Awareness Contest, which is open for students between the ages of 11 and 18 to submit creative media in a variety of categories that you can see here on a wide variety of environmental issues. And the contest is totally free to enter, and our current contest is open until June 13th, 2023. And our 2023 theme is Climate Heroes in Action, which is inspired by the fact that climate-based media tends to be very problem-focused. It focuses on the bad news. So our challenge for students this year is to research and choose an inspirational scientist, activist, artist, or educator who is working to ensure that the bad news is not the end of the story. We have developed our resource studio to act as a springboard for their research, and this is all on our website. We have climate resources to help students understand human impacts on the environment, and creative resources to inspire their craft. We have a Climate Heroes page, which has a bunch of different profiles to introduce students to the many different ways that someone can be a climate hero. And our educator resources include lesson plans, activities, and information about our Educator Innovation Award. Since our start in 2011, we've reached nearly 30,000 students in all 50 US states and 138 different countries. And we've given almost over $625,000 in awards. And we have your standard gold, silver, bronze, but we have a number of special awards. Oops. Like the We All Rise Prize for any student in the US who self-identifies as Black, Indigenous, or Latine. We also have this Voice of the Sea Award for any student who submits spoken word poetry. And we have a series of awards for students in our home state of Massachusetts. Now, the creative process is a really important tool for learning and teaching about the climate crisis. And as we can see from our 2022 post-contest survey, 77% of students learned more about climate change through the process of participating in the contest, and 83% built personal connections with climate change. 65% were inspired by what they encountered and changed their worldview or actions to positively impact the environment. And 76% of our students feel more confident using their creative skills. And that includes, and students answer that before they win any awards. So outside of the awards, they still gain confidence through participating in the contest. But beyond the numbers as well, we hear from students and educators. And one student who comes from a family of climate deniers said that this contest showed me how many others are on the same page as me and where I can find support. And one of our 2022 Educator Innovation Award winners said, I want my students' work to have a life that extends beyond the classroom. And Bausi enabled my 7th graders to connect with a wider audience and consider the power of their own writing voices. Thank you so much. I know I'm out of time, but I look forward to connecting with you in the breakout rooms and this afternoon at the winery. We will have some student art there on display.
Thank you so much, Eric. I've served as a judge for this, and it's just phenomenal. The student work, it's inspirational, and it connects emotionally to many more people than science itself. So this connection of art and science really impactful. Thank you, Eric. And our last talk of the session, Aimee Bonnano.
Thank you. Let's see. Let me just get the slides ready. I want to start by thanking you all for coming today and participating in the workshop. And then I'm going to share with you some work we've been doing on designing sustainable shorelines with art, design, science, and local knowledge. So this is a collaboration under Bob Chen at Umass Boston, with Lois Hetland at Mass Art, and with Latifa Zayed and Karina Flores at Neighborhood of Affordable Housing in East Boston. It's a grant project funded by Woods Hole Sea Grant. So working with high school students in NOAA's Youth Organizer Program, we're starting with those most affected by climate change, the youth, and giving them agency to make real change. As in Cool Science, we've learned that youth are really effective at teaching adults about climate change and the impacts. So our hypothesis here is that by integrating local knowledge, art, and design principles with state-of-the-art science approaches, we can enable nature-based and human-centered resilient shoreline designs. The youth have received information in layers at levels they can process while making their way through 3 successively longer design cycles. So we base the class on this design cycle. They learn to start with empathy, getting to know shorelines and thinking about the different users in the communities. They then define the problem or the tasks, come up with ideas, prototype, and test, and then taking what they've learned into the next cycle. We flow our classes around the design cycle, exploring the shorelines of East Boston. You can see some of the youth here at Belle Isle Marsh, and where they develop place-based experience and love for the coast. They've built personas, they've learned how water flows, here they're prototyping some building designs and structures and seeing how the water will actually flow to test it. And so now the youth have chosen 3 sites along East Boston to further design, and they've met with an architect from Mass Art who's taught us some architectural drawing tips. So we're working on refining these drawings, and our next step will be to share this work with the community and gain feedback there. So we have another 30 hours this year to continue a few more design cycles and refining, getting community feedback. And at the end of the project, Stone Living Lab will take one of their designs and test it and permit it, giving these youth a real chance to make an impact. So I look forward to talking with you more in the breakout groups.
Awesome. Thank you, Aimee. So Amy's doing multiple jobs here. So if you could set up the breakout groups.
Yep, I've got them ready to go now.
Okay, so you're free to zip around to any of the breakout groups, talk to any of our speakers, just go down and select which one and then get in and out, and we'll see you back at 10:54.
So Bob, can you help people get into the breakout rooms if they have trouble?
Yes, can you make me host for the moment?
Yes, you are co-host, so if you
I
go to
think you have to make
breakouts,
me,
can you say?
I'd like you to make me host, yeah, and I'll
Okay.
give it back after this session.
That's fine.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.